Good morning, students, and welcome back to our class. Okay, so this lesson will be the second to the last lesson of our oral communication and context, and it is about types of speeches according to delivery, but we have four types of speeches according to delivery. But first, we will discuss the first two, and these are the manuscript and memorize. Okay, let's start. Okay, let us know the three learning objectives that we have in this discussion. First, identify the different types of speeches according to delivery, which are the manuscript and memorize. And next, use principles of speech delivery in different situations. It means that your previous learnings or the things that you have learned during our previous discussion, you will apply it in this lesson. Okay? And the third objective is compose a memorized statement for an important school announcement. Okay, so for this time, I will not give you this performance task since we haven't met last week. Okay, so let's start our discussion. Okay, we will start with reading from a manuscript. Okay, so reading from a manuscript, it is done when a speaker reads to the audience a prepared text or manuscript, which may be prepared by someone else or by the speaker himself or herself. Okay, in reading from a manuscript, it doesn't mean that you as a speaker, you are the only one who can write or who can wrote your own speech. Okay, because in reading from a manuscript, there are some instances or there are some situation that a public speaker has a very busy life or busy schedule, so that he or she can write his or her own speech. Okay, that is why like politicians, okay, 'di ba busy ang life nila, so their secretary or their assistants are the ones who will write their speeches. Okay, so they can read it because their assistant and their secretary wrote their speech for them. Okay, so that's all for the manuscript. And also, for example, an official spokesperson is provided with a proclamation, a formal public announcement, and reads it is exactly as written. In reading from a manuscript, it is very important for the news anchor, for the spokesperson from the Malacanang. Why? Because the moment they are delivering important information, it must be complete details. Okay, so because they are reading exact words or exact sentences, paragraphs about a certain announcement, they didn't forget any word from that announcement. Okay, so that's all for the reading from a manuscript. And now let's proceed to the advantages of reading from a manuscript and disadvantages. Okay, first let's have the advantages. First, no single or important words are left out. Of course, because you are reading a manuscript, um, you are sticking with your manuscript or with a copy of your speech, it means that you will not forget any single words. Okay? Next, all significant points are covered and conveyed. Okay? So, because again, you are reading from a manuscript, you have the copy of your speech, all the significant points, all the sentences, comma, period that are in your speech, you will not forget those. Okay? So now let's proceed to the disadvantages of reading from a manuscript. First, the speech tends to sound mechanical and forced or unnatural. Okay, the reason why reading from a manuscript will sound mechanical or forced or unnatural because you are reading your manuscript. Okay, there are some instances that because you are reading your manuscript, you will not apply your emotions or your feelings to your speech. Okay, because we have the mindset na, ay, binabasa ko na lang, so I have no chance or wala kang karapatan para malimutan pa because you are reading your copy of your speech. Okay? So, and of course, you are too focused reading from your manuscript and magtutunog robot ka. Okay, there are times na magtutunog robot ka. Okay, next. The speaker is unable to react to the audience's nonverbal cues. Okay, again, because you are reading from a manuscript, you are too focused to the copy of your speech. You will not be able to have a connection with your audience. Okay, because your eyes are too focused on the paper that you are handling, you will not be able to look at the eyes of your audience. You will not see, or you will not notice that their attention is in you pa ba or wala na. Okay? And next, the audience may get bored or disinterested. Why? Because you are reading from a manuscript, your audience will feel that, ay, binabasa niya lang. Parang wala akong matututunan. Nakaka-boring naman. Okay? Next, the speaker cannot engage the audience using certain non-verbal cues to enrich the speech. Like what I've said earlier, you're not be able to have a rapport with your audience, have a connection with your audience because you are too focused reading from a manuscript. Okay? And these are the advantages and disadvantages of reading from a manuscript. Okay, and now let's have the guidelines on reading from a manuscript. Okay, if you will choose reading from a manuscript, you need to be sure that all of these guidelines ay maa-apply nyo during your speech. Okay? So again, if you will forgot to apply one of these guidelines, it means hindi mo ma-deliver effectively yung speech mo using reading from a manuscript. Okay, first guideline is write a good speech. Okay? You need to make an exceptional speech that contains logically connected paragraphs and well-supported topic sentences. In write a good speech, it means you will follow the principles of speech writing. Okay, in principles of speech writing, you will be able to analyze your audience. You need to choose correct words, and you need to use proper grammar. Okay, so also the duration of your speech. It means also after following the principles of speech writing, of course, you will follow the three parts of speech: the introduction, body, and conclusion. And of course, in writing a good speech, you need to use logically connected paragraphs, good transition of your sentences, and use conversational words. Okay? Lagi ko naman sinasabi, you are writing or you are speaking to express, not to impress. Okay? So, in that way, using a conversational method or conversational sentences or paragraphs, your audience will be able to understand what you are trying to say. Okay? So, that's for the first guideline. And next, we have format your speech properly. Okay, so in formatting your speech properly, because you will read your manuscript, it means dapat readable. Okay, if you will read your copy of your speech, ikaw pa lang na nagbabasa, it is easier for you to read it. Okay, hindi ka mamimili ng calligraphy na font style and 9 as font size. Okay? So, let's have the format. We have 5. Okay? So, you must follow this. First, indent each paragraph and include only 2 to 3 paragraphs per page. Okay? Indent, I know that all of you already know how to indent each paragraph. Okay? Next, the right margin should not be justified so that the words are equally spaced. Okay? So, in the right margin, di ba, since our elementary days, we already learned how to use sulating formal, sulating di formal. Doon pa lang naturuan na tayo, 'di ba? On how to write speech or on how to write paragraphs. And of course, double space between the lines. Okay? So, for you to read it easier, kailangan hindi dikit-dikit yung lines because there are times na nasa fifth line ka na ng speech mo, but because hindi ka gumamit ng double space between the lines, you will pwede mong mapagpalit yung fifth and fourth line. Okay? So, it is very important for you to use double space between the lines. Okay. Next, we have use only one side of the paper. Okay? Para hindi na tayo malito kung nasaan na tayo, always use the front page of your bond paper. Okay? So, and last, you need to use a font type of or style that is easy to read and a font size that is large enough to be read. Okay, in writing your speech, we will use Times New Roman as our font style and font size 12. Okay, so don't worry, all of this format, you can use it until your college. Okay, when you are in college na. Nung nagsithesis ako, ito din yung format na ginamit namin. Okay, so that is the second guideline. Now, let's have the third guideline. Practice your speech repeatedly. Okay? Know your speech by heart by practicing it repeatedly. Record yourself and then identify areas in your speech and in your delivery that needs improvement. Okay, Miss JV, do we need to practice pa kahit niriread na lang naman namin yung speech namin? Yes, of course. Because in reading from a manuscript, like what I've said, one of the disadvantage of reading from a manuscript na you will sound mechanical or unnatural because you are reading from a manuscript. But if you will follow this third guideline to practice your speech repeatedly, you will know your speech by your heart, not by your eyes. Okay? Because you already knew your speech by your heart. Ang mangyayari niyan, kahit hindi na kayo laging nakatingin sa copy nyo, ay alam nyo na yung sasabihin, okay? So, also, you need to practice, no? You can record yourself. In that way, you will know what are the parts of your speech that you needs improvement. Okay? Dito sa body na to, I need to emphasize this part, ganito, ganyan, okay? So, in practicing your speech repeatedly then, it is not only about on how to read or how to emphasize, how to divide the parts of your speech. It is all, of course, about din doon sa how you will use gestures, okay? How you will connect with your audience. Mag-i-stick ka lang ba na nakatingin doon sa iyong copy, or dito sa part na to you will look at the eyes of your audience, okay? So that's for the third guideline. And fourth guideline is vary your voice. And varying your voice in terms of volume, pitch, or intonation and emphasis allows you to make important points stand out from those that are less significant and to express your feelings or attitude. Use also appropriate pauses within the sentences. Okay, and varying your voice, of course, like what I've said during our last discussion, when you use monotone voice, it means that there are some instances na your audience will notice that your sentences are all the same because you are using monotone. So, in varying your voice, you need to modulate, you need to use different tone para naman makita doon sa voice mo yung attitude and feelings that you are that you want to input in your speech. Okay? So, also, in varying your voice, like what I've said during our last discussion also, you are hindi sinabing hindi natin pwedeng gamitin ng high pitch, right? But we can use high pitch tone of our voice when we need to emphasize something. Okay? When we need to put emphasis in some parts of our discussion or our speech. Okay? So, in vary your voice, hindi ito yung aarte ka, kahit hindi ka magaling mag-pronounce sa arte ka. Kaya nga, may practice, di ba? So that you can vary your voice. Okay? So, sa varying your voice, hindi lang to about sa boses mo. Of course, doon na rin sa pronunciation, sa enunciation, and also sa diction mo while delivering your speech. Okay? And last, but not the least, guideline for the reading from a manuscript is look at the audience from time to time. Okay, in looking at your audience will build rapport or connection with your audience so that your audience will be interested and will listen to you while delivering your speech. Okay, in reading from a manuscript, honestly, it is very hard for us or for you to have a connection with your audience. But if you will follow these 5 guidelines that I'm discussing now, you will be able to deliver effectively a speech from reading from a manuscript. Okay, so in looking at your audience, you can apply this while you are emphasizing something. Okay, so I will give you some example. Okay, so nagbabasa ako. One area in which journalist and public relations professional standard may vary is the accuracy of information disseminated. Okay, so kung nakita nyo while reading from a book, nakikita nyo pa rin na I have a time to look at you or doon sa audience ko. Okay? So, lagi tayong ganon. If we want to highlight something, if we will deliver the main points or main idea of our speech, we need to look at our audience and give emphasis. Okay? So, that's all for the 5 guidelines that we must follow in reading from a manuscript. Okay. So, now, let's proceed to the memorized speech. Okay? So, in memorized speech, it is usually done by skilled speakers. And most experts or professional speakers deliver their speeches from memory. Okay. Miss JV, dahil grade 11 pa lang po kami, nag-aaral pa lang pa kami, we are not allowed to use memorized speech. No. Okay? Kaya nga po tayo merong reading from a manuscript and memorized speech because you are allowed to choose whatever you want to deliver. Okay, in memory speech, it will help you to practice your memory, your brain. Okay? So, next. Okay, and also in memorized speech, a speaker gives a memorized speech by committing every word of the speech to memory and then deliver it in front of an audience. The speaker does not bring with him or her any notes or manuscript. Okay, in memorized speech, of course, you already memorize every word, yung exclamation man yan, yung comma, yung period, all of the things that are in, all of the words that are in your speech, lahat yon nasa memory mo na. Okay? So you are not allowed, of course, to use your sticky notes, your speech outline, even your manuscript in delivering memory speech. Okay? Of course, like reading from a manuscript, the memory speech, it has also advantages and disadvantages. Okay? First advantage of memorized speech, it develops a sense of confidence in the speaker. Why? Because the moment you step on the stage, 'di ba? In that moment, it will build your confidence. Why? Because you already know kung anong sasabihin mo. Because nga, you already memorize your speech. It may improve the speaker's memory. Okay? Like what I've said earlier, no? In memorized speech, it will help you to have an exercise of memorization and to have a keen memory. Okay? And next, it allows the speaker to connect with the audience and build rapport since he or she can use various delivery strategies and nonverbal cues. Because you are not sticking into the copy of your speech because it is memorized speech nga. You can have a connection with your audience. You can go to them, ask them a question, okay? You can have a small conversation with them because you already memorize your speech, okay? That is the most advantage of memorized speech for me, okay? And now, let's proceed to the disadvantages. First, it takes a long time to memorize unless the speaker has a very keen memory. Okay. One of the disadvantages is in memorized speech, you need a lot of time for you to practice and for you to memorize your speech. Why? In memorizing a speech, it doesn't mean that after 24 hours, you already memorize all of the words that is in your speech. No. Okay? You have a lot of time. You need a lot of time. 2 weeks, okay, for you to practice, for you to memorize every word and all the gestures that you are going to do while delivering your speech. Okay? Next, it requires more effort to speak from memory than to read from a manuscript. Okay? So like what I've said, you need a lot of time, but also you need a lot of effort. Okay? You will not memorize the words itself, but also you need to memorize the gestures that you are going to do while delivering your speech. Okay? It has more effort to deliver your speech from your memory because malalaman nyo later. Okay? Next, it can sound mechanical or unnatural since the speaker concentrates on on remembering what comes next rather than on communicating the ideas to the audience. Okay. So, Miss JV, magiging mechanically sound pa rin ba? Katulad ng reading from a manuscript? Yes, because you already memorized your speech, lahat ng words alam mo. And there are some instances na sa sobrang kabisado mo na, magiging mabilis ka magsalita at magiging tuloy-tuloy yun. Okay? 'Di ba sabi nga ng sa rate natin, no, ng speech delivery, no, yung rate ay 115 to 150, okay, per minute. Pero dahil memorize mo na, naka 250 ka na per minute kasi sobrang memorize mo. Okay? Kaya magiging sound mechanical pa rin or unnatural pa rin. Okay? And last disadvantage of memorized speech is it can break a speaker's train of thought and may cause embarrassment if he or she forgets certain words or lines in the speech. Okay. 'Di ba? During our lesson about speech delivery, when you are using your shoulders back and shoulders down, okay, so it will show your audience that you are very confident. But there are times when you forgot something, you will your shoulders get down. Okay, so it means na makikita ng audience ay parang na-disappoint to. Para may nakalimutan siya. Ayun lang yung advantage ng memorized speech. Na once na may na-forget ka, makikita ng audience mo na ay may nalimutan. Okay? So that's all for the advantages and disadvantages of memorized speech. And now let's have the tips on how to deliver memorized speech. Again, for you to be able to deliver effectively yung memorized speech, you need to follow these tips. Okay? First, keep it short. In keep it short, it means ba, Miss JV, hindi na namin susundin yung introduction, body, and conclusion? No. You need to follow it pa rin. Okay? Pero, keep it short na lang. Doon sa mga significant points mo, direct to the point ka na. Okay? Huwag mo nang pahabain. For you to have a short time for you to memorize your speech. Okay? Next, practice. Okay? Of course, in memorized speech, again, you need a lot of time, you need a lot of effort for you to memorize the gesture and memorize the word. So, practice lang tayo. You can record yourself, like what I've said, like in reading from a manuscript, record yourself so that after recording yourself, you will know or you can notice the things that you are lacked to or meron lacking to or yung mga mali-mali ka or you need improvement or development. Okay? And next, visualize. Okay? In visualize, ito yung sinasabi ko sa inyo kanina na you need a lot of effort. Okay? In visualize, the moment na nag-record ka na or nag-practice ka, of course, there are some parts of your speech na lagi mo nakakalimutan, right? In that way, you will apply visualize or visualization. Example, I'm delivering a speech about COVID-19. But when it comes to the vaccine part of my speech, lagi ko nalilimutan. In that way, doon na yung papasok yung visualize or visualization. Okay? Hala, vaccine na yung next. So, pwede ako mag-create ng simple image into my brain for me to remember what is next. Okay, example, vaccine na yung next, pero lagi mo nalilimutan. But because you are using visualization and using a simple image into your brain, inside your brain, malalaman mo na vaccine na pala yung next dun sa topic mo. Okay? You can use syringe as your simple image o kaya yung bida ang bakuna, resbak bakuna, bida ang may bakuna sa imus. Okay? So, it is an example of simple images that we can use para doon sa susunod natin kung vaccine yung next na topic natin na lagi natin nalilimutan. Okay? And last two, project your voice. It is like varying your voice, modulate your voice, your intonation, diction, enunciation, and pronunciation. Of course, you are not allowed to use monotone voice. Okay? So, yung project your voice, alam nyo na naman to, parang varying your voice lang. Okay? And next, use appropriate pauses. In using appropriate process, hindi lang ito about sa makakapagpahinga or makakahinga ka. Okay, you are taking a break because of the process. But also, it will give you time to remember what is next. Isa din to sa pwede natin gamitin for us to remember what is the next part of our speech. Okay? So, that's all for the tips and in delivering a memorized speech. Okay? So, that's all for today. I hope you learned something about our discussion. And for me to know if you already watched this video, kindly comment your alpha and delta and the things that you want to share with me. Okay? So, that's all for today. Class, thank you for listening and I hope you learned something. Bye!